That's better. All right. So again, it's kind of a light time of year in terms of news, but normally sharing some WordPress news and events. There are a couple things coming up. One, kind of probably by the time we meet next month, WordPress 6.6 will have launched. So it's currently scheduled for release July 16th. And I guess maybe I wasn't paying enough attention because I'm enjoying the summer and all, but there's actually quite a bit in this release, including some things that we've covered previously that now I think got deferred from 6.5, got moved into 6.6. So we'll definitely cover this. Probably we'll spend some more time on it next month because it'll be more timely. But just, again, if you want to try it out, we'll show you a way tonight, if we have time, to try these things out early, a low risk way. But anyway, some highlights: data view updates. We talked about data views with 6.5. The one that excites me is overrides and synced patterns, because I had I had a whole presentation on this and then they yanked it, so I got to dust that off. Some really cool stuff in terms of block editor improvements, style variations, section style. So there's a lot of good stuff coming to this one. So I think this will be a good one to spend some more time on next month, because like I said, it'll probably be right around the time that we have our next meetup. WordCamp Europe has come and gone, but as I've said before, the nice thing about especially these larger WordCamps is you can go back and watch the recordings of them. Again, the majority of these are in English. I assume there are some in non-English, but usually they have captions, etc. So if you just do a search on YouTube, that's probably the best way to search for is WordCamp Europe. I think I also had, oops, sorry, my Zoom windows always blocking things. I think, yeah, there's also a page on WordPress.org. If you go to the news, there's a nice little breakdown of it if you want to skim through and get the highlights. There also was Matt Mullenweg gave another update talk too. These are always interesting to hear. He usually gives a big one at the end of the year, but it's good to kind of catch up and see kind of what's happening in the WordPress space. So that's all I got for news for this time of year. So tool or tip spotlight. Let me stop sharing. Peter, what do you got for us?
Well, I'm just going to impromptu something. We've talked about some of these things in the past, and I figure this is something that I use. I go through a process kind of all the time. And do you see a screen? The Polinsky log?
Polinsky log group, yeah.
That's right. Sue, is it okay if I show this site?
I'll appreciate the shout out.
There you go. Okay, so here's one thing so one of the first things I do whenever somebody tosses a website at me, out of habit, there's a few things that I do, because I'm curious, and there's certain areas that I focus on. One of the areas that I focus on is accessibility. Now I have the Wave Chrome extension, which I'll show, but I also show a page that does it. So just out of habit, I go to a site, I go to my Wave Chrome extension, click on that, and I get a report. And I was happy to show this, Sue, because at least for the whole page, there are no accessibility errors that are found by Wave. Wave is an accessibility testing tool. It looks at a website, it looks at issues with the organization of the site, the colors. A whole lot of factors are forms properly labeled, and all of these types of things. So this tool here, as an extension, gives you an idea of everything, and you can really get into the details. What's great is with this site, there's not a whole lot to actually look for. Things like looking at the structure of the site and having headings go in the right order and things like that. So there's no alarms going off. What you can also do is just go to wave.webaim.org, which is that same the web accessibility evaluation tool. And instead of loading an extension, this is like a Chrome extension, you can just go to the page and put in a URL. So that's the law office URL. So this is going to find one little error, and it's just something to do with, while it's different, it's because it's looking it up versus already being loaded, and it's finding an error with the page refreshing or redirecting, which I don't know a whole lot about. What's great about the tools, it'll tell you what it means. This page is set to automatically change location, using a meta tag, why it matters, and so on. So this is kind of one of the first steps I do. one of the next things I do is I go to my, and folks have seen over the many months and even years, I use the wpthemedetector.com website that I go to, and I do a quick lookup because I get curious. Okay, first of all, is it built in WordPress? And there's different tools for doing that, and I'll show you another one in a second. But in this case, it loads up, and it's a Divi site. And here's something interesting about accessibility. Divi's not generally rated high for accessibility, so it's great to see that the law office site that is built in Divi per the WP theme detector. Attention was paid to accessibility. And then what you also get are some of the plugins that it finds. So this is a neat tool. Again, things that I do out of habit. Somebody points to a site, I kind of go off and I go through these steps to see what's it made of. Another tool to use is builtwith.com. And when you use builtwith, it comes back. And something interesting about builtwith is that it databases, it records this. So you can have a site that has changed recently, because I found this with a couple of sites that I know about where they changed their platform, and builtwith sort of has a little bit of both. So it's not like doing a live lookup, if you will, like WP Theme Detector does, but builtwith also tells you a lot more information, like, you know, where and how it's hosted, and if it's using Cloudflare, and so many details. And then, yes, it's using in this case WordPress multi-site, which probably tells me that this might be a site that is hosted by a company that has more than one site. Maybe they're hosting on multi-site. Again, all the clues that you find out. But builtwith is a great tool for kind of really just saying, what is it? Hey, who hosts this? And their websites, like literally like, who hosts this, or what CMS is this? But builtwith is one of the quickest ways to go in there. And there's even a Chrome extension for that, where when you're on a site, where it might help even for somebody who is not new to even WordPress, might be, I like how they did something. What might they have used? Or did they use, did they use a plugin or something like that? That's where some of these tools like WP Theme Detector come in handy. I mentioned it before, I'll probably mention it again, but these are the ones that I use so habitually that I thought it might be useful. So there you go.
That was a great one. That's like the same here. I use it all the time. I mean, some sites I can tell, I have a good enough eye to tell that looks like Divi. But yeah, it's always good to kind of verify that. I also like within Hover too, that Hoverify, that it's kind of built into that as well. So yep, there you go.
Yeah, so Hoverify is an extension for Chrome. It's a paid extension, very affordable, but there's so many things that you can do where you can just kind of, turn on the inspector and look and see all the details, and what's in the CSS, and what font it is, and what font size, and all that kind of stuff. This is, yeah. So, and you get all kinds of other things with Hoverify, where if you want to look at the assets, and you can see, oh, here are all the graphics that are loaded on the page, so on and so forth. So it's a great way to kind of pick apart something, because it's all getting delivered to your browser. These are just tools. Like Hoverify is just a tool that then takes it out and shows it to you a different way.
Sorry, Peter. Sorry, can you put the Wave address in again, the URL for the Wave tool?
Yep. It's Wave. I'll put it in the link too.
Yeah, wave.org.
Let me put that right in the chat.
And we should fix that.
Oh, did you hear that, by the way? Because I know.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was coming through my speaker I know with Zoom, you have to kind of turn on where it gets the sound. That was Matt Mullenweg during his question. I wanted to make sure that I was well-versed in that, in case somebody asked about it.
Hey, Sue, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, I did. I can't turn my video back on. But my question, I've been DMing Ray, but I think he's busy. Peter, on that Polinsky Law site that you were just talking about, would that get WCAG AA? Or do you think it'd be lucky to get A?
No, let's see what Wave is actually trying to show us that.
WCAG is the standards for anybody for accessibility. The highest I think you can get is AAA. And they said kind of not in your lifetime. It's really,
Yeah, it's,
really impossible. But I just wonder if they could get AA.
yeah. I don't know. Honestly, that's a great question in terms of the testing. There are plenty of other accessibility tools. I'll look at it kind of on the side, but I think they're not breaking this down right now to the specifics. But because it looks so darn clean, it's
Do you
definitely
think
a possibility.
Do you
Yeah.
think Amber's plugin or site, does her site look at another site or do you need to install the plugin?
So you need to install the plugin. So this
Okay,
is the accessibility checker.
Amber Hines. Oh, well,
Not accessibility. By the way, when you do any kind of searching for accessibility, and when you see accessibility come up, please pass by. These are the overlays that are meant to be the quick fixes, and they are not. They cause more issues than they do. It's Equalized Digital is Amber Hines and Chris Hines' company, and they have a tool called the Accessibility Checker. The Accessibility Checker is a WordPress plugin. It's free from the repository. There's a paid version. The paid version gets you the ability to look at custom post types. And also you can look at multiple pages. It's much more robust. The accessibility checker allows you to look at kind of basically every page to see what its accessibility is, both on the back end and the front end as you're creating editing pages. And it gives you some live stuff. I'll pull it up in a little bit because I can show you on different sites.
And hey, Peter, there's a real quick question before it gets lost in this. Sherry was asking, I think, what does ARIA mean? ARIA.
So ARIA is, and I can never remember what the acronym is.
Not the font.
No, it is an acronym for accessibility, accessible rich internet applications. And what it is a language that sits in HTML on the back end in the code that further defines, describes, does things for things like screen readers. So if you have a screen reader, so it's a way of, in effect, overwriting what might be coming out of any kind of web tool, whether it's WordPress or something else. But there's an interesting thing. There's a recent presentation. It's like the best ARIA code is the ARIA code you don't use, because it is meant to be sort of a fix, a change, a modification. But it is a way to manage the way code goes through to the browser and then to things like assistive technology, where like screen readers, somebody who is blind is using a screen reader, and then there may be more information or more controls that happen because the ARIA code is telling it to do something or to say something or to present something.
Makes sense.
All right. So, real quick, the accessibility checker, which is
Peter, on the paid version of the accessibility checker, don't you also get some consulting time with Amber's company?
Yeah. On the higher levels where you get, here's the pricing. You do get at a $600 a year, which again is not crazy for what it does. 5 licenses. It's fantastic. And here's one of the other things that's super fantastic about the tool and the company and the people is when you're using the accessibility checker. And again, it is, go to WordPress.org. And for anyone new, WordPress.org, you can extend WordPress. You can add themes and plugins that extend what WordPress does or how it looks, how it works. If we go to plugins and look up accessibility, and it's probably one of the quick ones. So Equalized Digital Accessibility Checker. And here it is free on the repository versus the paid versions. So you have these different levels. And wonder if there's a screenshot here. Sorry to scroll fast. So screenshots. Yeah, so at the bottom of your screen, when as you're editing a page, you will get kind of a live readout that gives you the details of what you should be working on. And then when you get into the details, what's great about that is it also links to this very specific, here's what's wrong, and then to their website where they have done documentation better than almost any organization that I've seen them explaining what it is, what you can do, what you should do. So it's all about not only finding the area, any errors that you have, but then helping you fix them. So it's a fantastic thing. Maybe later we'll just kind of do something live, but it is a great thing. And by the way, let me unshare for a second. So I am in fact wearing just got it in the mail today, accessibility t-shirt for the WordPress Accessibility Day that I'm helping organize. It's coming in October. By the way, if you see focus, it's not. It's a feature, not a bug. And the reason that is amusing to people involved in accessibility is that if you have clients, if you're somebody who builds sites and the client goes and they use their tab key or they click on something and all of a sudden there's a box around a link and they go, I hate that. Get rid of that. What is that bug? And it's not a bug. It is a feature. And let me share it again. And what that's referring to is as we go along the site and see the box that's going around.
Yeah, showing you
that tells you where the focus is. So that is the focus. So turning that off because a client doesn't like it is ill-advised. And there's a whole effort about figuring out the best ways to talk to people about things like accessibility, and just because they don't like it. But instead of saying, well, it's just accessibility, it is, I treat it from a best practices, most number of clients served, all of the good positive words. But the focus.
We had a very good presentation by Peter of accessibility a while back too. So a lot of that stuff's covered in there too. If you want to go back and get a little more deep dive on that.
Always want to remind people of our own site and the links.
Yeah, there we go. 20th. Yep. Hey, Peter, let's jump into we're getting questions coming in. So
excellent.
Good job stalling for time. Things were filling up. So at this point too, everyone should be able to unmute yourselves. I think we're all a friendly bunch now. We checked your backgrounds. Everyone's good. So let's start from the top here. Gene has a question about header security. Gene, what are you talking about? Header security.
That's what I wondered. If it was on the Web Squadron YouTube channel a couple days ago.
Okay.
And do you know who he is? I think his name is Iman. I'm not sure what his real name is.
Oh yeah,
but,
by his hair.
Okay. He has a very British accent, and he has things at lunchtime, which is 7 o'clock our time in the morning. But anyway, he had a thing about keeping your header secure.
Yep. Sorry about that.
And I'll put. So he
says header. What? Header is kind of a broad term. Does he mean header in terms of HTTP header, or does he mean headers in website WordPress header?
Header in a website. So when you have your metadata all up in the top, it tells you where you say what your language is.
Right.
Got okay.
Title that, and I had never heard of it before. And there is a website. I put it in the chat, and you can put your own website in. You go to their website, put your URL in there, and I got an F by header security. So I was like, I don't know what that.
Sure. Others feel free to jump in here, but some of the stuff I'm curious. So this plugin allows you to, sorry, I'm kind of there you go, thanks, Peter. It looks like that plugin allows you to control some of the settings on it, but I'm wondering, some of these are done also by other security plugins too. I wonder how well this plays along with other security plugins. So like cross-site origin, sometimes the browser also prevents from doing. So again, if you're going through HTTPS, I'm curious.
So security is an interesting thing, and we don't have Eric on the call. Eric is from Texas, and he attends a lot of the meetups, and he's known for knowing things about security. And Eric is somebody who approaches things from a very hardcore way. Like so many of these things, right? You can get really, saying I'm going to lock down everything, and do you have to? I mean, I'm looking at this. I don't know if you. This is the site you're talking about, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You
Right.
got
So,
the same score I did.
yeah. And we're all going to get an F, I'm sure, because
Yeah.
we're not loading security plugins that obfuscate a lot of these things. Now, there are some things that you can definitely turn off. There are some plugins that will make sure that we're reducing, and this is all about reducing areas of attack, if you will. So, and there are certainly plugins. I'll try to pull up some of the ones that, or think about and then pull up, that I use. Are they all about a specific plugin, Ray, did you say?
There was one that Gene put in there as well too. So it's WordPress. It's called headers-security-advanced-HSTS. It's in the chat. That guy. Yeah, I've never seen this one before. What's the how many 50,000? It's been around a little while. It's kind of tough to say, like, I mean, all these things, and I think this maybe to piggyback upon I think Laura, I believe, asked a question, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, about the like security, hiding the login page too.
Right.
I mean, all of this stuff, my opinion now as a security expert is these, I mean, they're good things to do in the sense of it's the belt and suspenders, of something like the hiding the login thing. To me, that one's a little funny. It's like security by obscurity. Like
Yes.
your login's still there. You're hiding it from bots, basically, so people can't scrape through it and find it. Doesn't mean you don't have a login, but people can eventually find it. I mean, these going to this additional level of removing things from your header. I guess my fear of that sometimes is what you may end up breaking unintentionally and then trying to resolve that afterwards. Especially I see that a lot of times with clients who have too many, like just caching, for example. They have multiple caching plugins in and they all don't really work well together. So I personally don't know that header security plugin, how that would behave with other kinds of security things, other plugins or your site. Sue, go ahead.
Yeah.
Gene, are you running your sites through Cloudflare or not? Because you don't have to worry as much about header security if you're using Cloudflare, and if Cloudflare is not something for the faint of heart or the new, if you're new at this and you could use some help getting it set up, but once it's set up, you don't have to deal with Cloudflare ever again. It checks for bots. On headers, we leave out the version of WordPress, even though, I mean, I've got hundreds of sites over all these years. I can't afford to let something get hacked. So I also don't know if they're still buying maintenance packages and doing the updates. So if you've got an outdated version of WordPress with certain security vulnerabilities, the hackers can search for it pretty easily. So I just make sure that the version of WordPress is not in the header. And that's one little thing we can do to be a little more secure. But Cloudflare it lets people like me sleep at night.
Cloudflare, I definitely agree too with what you said, Sue. It's one of those where it can be complex to set up. It's actually built into a few more like hosting services too, where you can connect them to Cloudflare to make it a little bit easier. Cloudflare it's another one of those that, again, especially for newer people on here, it's one of those funny services that does multiple things, which is always hard to describe. In some sense, it was I don't know if it was originally like this, but I first learned about it as more of like a CDN. So I think Peter's had a picture there of that. So, just the idea of spreading things out through Cloudflare, especially from a caching standpoint. So if you want your website to load quickly around the globe, around the country, Cloudflare basically would create like a cached version. But if you think about like YouTube, you access YouTube through a CDN. That's basically how everyone gets fast access. But then Cloudflare has started turning into other things too, like the security portion. So with Cloudflare is where you can start adding things like, geolocation blocking to say, I don't want any visitors to my site coming from China or Russia, as well as it can tell. And so it has a lot of additional features into Cloudflare, which my fear sometimes though is all these caching things again, if you don't set it up properly, trying to debug the chain of where the thing is broken, it can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. Peter, did you have a 2 cents on Cloudflare? And
yeah, I used it years ago, hated it and left it and never went back. So, but everybody, and Sue, you're supported by a lot of folks who use it for those solutions. I found it back when it was a CDN that it slowed everything down, but because I was dealing with local clients and I didn't need to have things distributed the same way. It's one of those things where to me, it's an added layer to figure out, but once you figure it out, then you don't have to think about it anymore for the most part. So then it's not a problem. But I tell you, the whole topic of security is obviously we could, there are presenters and podcasters. Maybe we'll get Kathy Zant on, who is.
Well, I think we started doing a bit of a plugin series too. So I think that might be a place to dive more deeply into a couple of plugins. So. So Gene, maybe if you don't mind, we'll table that because maybe your plugin is something that, or not, it's not your plugin, but that one that you mentioned is something we could tag on to that one too to explore it. I'd like to see what it does.
I use PatchStack. That's why I have it up on the screen here, which is a third party. There's a plugin, and it scans. They're the ones. They're a company that puts out the reports of all the vulnerabilities and things like that. So it's kind of an active security plugin for for those clients that it works for. But then you have the security and word fence and everybody, like anything, people have pros and cons, yays or nays. It's useless, it's fantastic in every variation, but it depends on where you're coming from and what's valuable. Generally, that one topic, the question, was it Laura who asked about the
login,
the login thing. For the most part, most people say it's kind of useless. You kind of feel better about it, but it doesn't have a whole lot. And I used one of my other mostly used tools, which is Perplexity. Love perplexity.ai. And I asked, do WordPress plugins that hide login pages offer any value, or do bots know how to get around that attempt to block them? And then you get the answer. And why I like Perplexity is it's basically looking for answers on real websites, pulling them together in an answer, and then giving you the sources of where you can go get more of that information. The links up here, so you actually can go get the topic. But
it's a lot of hacking stuff, at least that I've seen, probably you've seen, Peter, too. It's not necessarily going in through logging in. It's more exploiting a old theme, old plugin. So the login hiding isn't necessarily going to fix that.
Exactly. So it's kind of like one of those things where, well, it kind of does it,
I would say that if you have, and again, I wouldn't specifically install a plugin to do it,
right? But
if you're using something like WordFence, or your hosting has something like SiteGround has a security plugin where it's just flip a switch and you can hide it. I keep going back to the analogy of, if you're parking in a parking lot in a sketchy looking neighborhood and you locked your doors and you put the club on and the guy next to you has it, is that going to mean your car's not going to get broken into? Probably not, but well, maybe, it's like, it's easier to break into the guy next to you. So,
exactly.
A little bit helps.
Yeah.
Let's jump down. So security, excellent ones. Let's see, Natalie, learning about templates. We'll talk about using the template. Natalie, do you want to talk a little bit about that? So you say the school, UNC, uses a template. You're trying to learn what you can do within it. What do you mean by template?
Is she here?
Is Natalie still? Oh, maybe Natalie dropped. Oh, okay, well, we'll have to find out. Yeah,
template. I'm going to jump in on this real quick.
Sure.
Template is one of those great WordPress words that means so many darn things. It's confusing because It's just like what what do you mean by template? You know, and it often gets used even with a pattern is a layout template parts that are part of you know block themes and things like that. So
She may
that
mean
word
page
itself,
builder. She may mean like Elementor as a template or something. And yeah,
it could be a custom post type that has you fill out the forms and then
right.
the content out in the template. It is a word that can be very confused, and what happens in a lot of conversations sometimes I catch people are like you're kind of actually talking about different things even though
Right.
you're using the same word. You know, somebody's talking about something that's in a theme and someone else is talking about something that, yeah, might be a page builder or pattern, you know, layout or something like that.
So Natalie, if you're watching this in the future, come back and let us know what you meant. We'd like to see. And I'm interested what your definition of template was. Bob's interested in Chrome extensions for web design. Ooh, let's we can take everyone can take a turn just showing one quick one, and we can easily spend the rest of this meeting show. I would
Yeah.
say, so what are some of the ones that you use most often? Chrome extensions. Let me. So I was wowing somebody recently with one which I was just like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. What was it? Was it Hoverify or was it the? I'll show a silly one. I'll start
Yeah.
with the silly one, probably of the least use, but I tend to use it all the time for various reasons. Not even web design, but it's a screen resizer. So
Oh,
I'm anal. So if my screen starts looking like this, I'm like, that's not good. It's too skinny. I need to get it back to something normal. So the screen resizer, and I think it's called window resizer. It's
yep.
free because again, I like free. And you can just set up different sizes on this. So I generally start off with a laptop size like this, and my monitor's a little bit bigger, so I'll drag it down. But you know, you can play around with. I think they've added additional ones. These are just the ones I've saved in here previously. So iPad, laptop, etc. It's simple. Does what it says it does. Resizes things. You can put custom sizes in here, etc. But comes in handy, especially a lot of times from a breakpoint. When you're looking at a website and it's like, when does it break? What does it look like? There's plenty of other ways to use this to do that, but that's just a simple one that I use. So what's it called? It's called Window Resizer. That's my silly one. Peter, what you got? So that's
Yeah,
stronger, more powerful.
that's a big question. So let's
Well, everyone who has a good one to share web design related to, raise your hand and we'll tell us what you got, because I think it's a good
you
one to
can see my
learn.
screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so one of the first ones, of course, again, Hoverify, Wave. What if I got? I have found this one is something that I really like. So say I'm looking at this and I've got this highlighter. It's the web highlights, and I can actually clicking on it is opening up like what I've already remembered. So let me click off of that. But like say I want to really remember this paragraph. If I highlight it, my highlighter pops up. I can highlight it. If I were to go to another page and come back, it stays highlighted. You can add notes, things like that. So I found this is a great thing. It's not necessarily web development for somebody who uses the web a lot. I have a Wayback Machine extension that I use. Sometimes I want to see, you know, the history of a site. So instead of going to the Wayback Machine, you can literally just go to the Wayback Machine and hop right in. Oh, I must have.
I find my results with Wayback Machine are always 50-50. Sometimes the thing it shows me, especially the farther back you go, the less it can actually apply the CSS to make it look like anything worth looking at.
Headings map is a great one for accessibility. So say I'm again back over here and I'll show you kind of the whole list, but say we go to WordPress.org. And then we go to an article. Let's say you go into you want to learn about WordPress 6.3 that released. If you click on, if you use the headings map extension, you get that list just like you see in Wave, but it's a quick way to kind of get an idea of where all of the order of your headings are, so you can see if there's anything out of order, which you don't want to have for reasons, again, to help people who are using assistive technology, where they're, you know, the screen reader helps them, like if somebody who can see the page can like easily scan to see, oh, that's the area I want. You have the same type of thing for people who can't see the screen. So that's heading ones. But if I go to kind of all my extensions, I've got so many that I turn them on and off. A lot of accessibility ones. I'm trying to think of if there's anyone else. Bitdefender, Bitly, Buffer, Browser Boost. There's a built with. I've shown you built with before. There's a built with extension. Clear Cache. Clear your cache and browser data with a single click of the button. Is kind of a handy little thing, especially if you're building websites. CSS Viewer and CSS Peeper are both ways of kind of like Hoverify.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hoverify, because I think Sue had mentioned also like that the color was it Colorzilla. I've got another one that you can. I think Hoverify for me has become kind of a Swiss Army knife, where I used to have a bunch of different extensions that would do those things, and
Yep.
again, we're not plugging or selling Hoverify, but it's nice. It puts a bunch of developer tools all into one.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Again, lots of different accessibility, kind of one-click checks, and yeah.
Yeah, Laura had one to bring up.
Which one?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same boat with Peter. I have a couple of accessibility ones. I definitely use the Wave. I use Grammarly a lot.
Yep.
I also use, it's called Web Color Picker, and it's an eyedrop that will pick the color if you're looking to match a color from a photo on a website.
Yep.
Like you see something, you're like, oh, I like that color. You can get the hex code for that. Go full page, which is take a picture of the whole page. So if you want to like take a whole like the home page,
Yeah,
I use that. And
again,
then
not to keep plugging Hoverify, but it's all built in there.
it's all built in there.
It's great.
Can
yeah.
Because I was searching for Hoverify. Can you put the spelling of that, because I could not find anything about it
the
when I
guy
was
just
Googling.
he just did a big update to it recently, where I like the UI a lot better. I don't know if you, Peter, if you've updated it, but
Yeah.
can you show? So if you show, so here's the new UI. Just a couple quick things on this. So the inspector. What's nice now, before it was a little bit, so the inspector is this thing of like, as he hovers his mouse over, if you click on one of them, it'll like kind of freeze that frame. So now you can go back to it and it shows you everything. It shows, and you could modify this too, but it shows you, the fonts, it shows you the CSS, it shows you every class being applied to it. So that one is like the hardcore one, but yeah, it also has the color picker, the eyedropper thing. So you can do all that same stuff. It has the screen, it has a full screen capture you can do. And the one I like a lot, again, which is kind of a sneaky one, but I'm lazy too, is, can you close these up, Peter? And is the assets one.
Oh, yeah.
Go to that. Yeah, this is real nice too. If you click on assets, it'll show you all the assets on this page, and you can download them separately. So including sometimes, I don't know if they always, if somebody is like hidden something with CSS, but it's actually in the HTML, you'll find it there. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah. Like if you liked somebody's, graphic icon and
Not that you would steal them, but just to be inspired by it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a great one. So that probably covers like 5 different ones together. And I got it on sale too. I got it for pretty cheap for the lifetime deal, which I don't know if he does that or not, but great question, Bob. Let me see what else. We'll keep looking at these. I thought I saw another one. We had Wave. Sorry, I'm going back. So you had something here about, I don't know if we covered it or if it was just a comment, something about replacing Divi. Looking for suggestions to replace a Divi thing. Well, I'm trying to remember the context of that.
Okay. I am rebuilding a website that's in Divi for a group called the Triad Career Network, and these are unemployed people looking for jobs in the local area. And the site is minimal. There's not much to it. They have get-togethers. Anyway, this particular page is what I'm looking for suggestions for. This search is a Divi run search where it's searching through the media library for those, whatever word you type in.
Sure.
And it's a bad search to start with because there's no way to upload your own thing. You have to like talk to the developer who's a little MIA.
Yeah.
And it will return, type in a word like banking, and
about-
then
how about
you'll get
resume?
results of those people have banking on their resume. And if you click the link, you get the PDF.
Okay.
What I'm trying to figure out, first of all, it's completely out of date. Some of these people aren't even there anymore. And as I'm rebuilding the site, my question was, do you want this search or do you not? And they're thinking about it. And I'm trying to figure out to keep their costs down because these are unemployed people. They're kind of backed by a church. And what would you suggest? Because a search without keyword check boxes or something, or a search where you can't even go as a member of the organization, upload your own stuff. You have to talk to somebody. What do you think we could do that was cost effective, searched only PDFs, and even if I put them in a separate directory, and returns something that lets you see this person's resume and some contact information? What would you use? Now we have ACF Pro. I have licenses for that. I've got Cadence Pro everything. And
yeah, I think so even like this one, I was just trying to figure out, is this the built-in search widget module from Divi, or is
somebody
this
told me it was. They told me it was part of Divi. What I'm thinking, it might be part of the theme they're using, like a plugin added to the theme as a but so it's a Divi search.
Yeah, it's
I don't want them, we don't want people searching the entire media library because they're going to get images, especially when I add alt text to it.
The only advanced free search. So back to especially for any new folks on here. So the way I would approach this problem is from a search standpoint. I mean, relevancy was the one, relevancy, whatever that one.
I don't know if any of the search tools search PDFs on the free version.
That's a good question. Yeah.
And but let's just accept that. Would you do this as a custom post type and open it up to people to put their own, like filling out a gravity form or something? Would you do it that way, or would you do it as a custom post type where you send your resume to the guy in charge of the website and he or she will add it for you? How would you approach this you don't have to be a member. There's no fees, no dues. It's people looking for jobs. And so, I'm trying to help them out.
Those are two separate. Those are two separate problems. Let's
yes,
start
they
with,
are. Yes, they are.
So let's start with the search problem first. So that's an interesting one. This is what we like in the summer sessions here. So we haven't really covered search. I don't think we've ever covered search. That must be another plugin we'll have to do.
Then I suggest it for September.
Yeah. So yeah, the one, oh, I'm sorry, I stopped sharing my screen. Oh, sorry. I think I stopped sharing my screen. The only one I played around with, and the problem is I don't know if I did the paid version or the free version, but it was, what was it called? It's, if other people use it, it's that
relevancy. We use it on a doctor's site who runs a research website. It's wonderful. Free version does exactly what it needs.
Right. It's this one, from what I recall, I haven't used it in a while, is this one is highly configurable, fuzzy matching. I thought that.
Can you limit it to search a custom post type?
That's what I thought. And again, this may be the paid version though, where you were able to restrict it. It gave you more restrictions to say what kinds of, here we go. Indexing, content, PDF, open office. So there's premium. Yeah. So relevancy is the one that I've seen on a few sites. I don't know if other folks have seen as well. It to me is, and it's been around, I think, quite a while too. It seems to have the most features in it. It was a little clunky to work with from what I recall. at least the site that I was dealing with.
Well, it enhances the standard WordPress search, and that's for sure on the free
A
version.
lot, yeah.
What I'm trying, if I do it as a custom post type,
Yep.
then I need one of these search tools that'll search. You
Well,
can
so that-
tell it where to search.
Right, so now let's talk about your second part of this. I guess I would separate that problem of getting these PDFs and submitting them, right? Like, was that the second part of like, if somebody
Yeah.
is submitting the resumes as a PDF, what's the best way to do it? And I guess it comes down to a couple of things in terms of like workflow file security too, so you need something that has the ability to accept PDFs and it doesn't think that it's a virus or something. I would
Gravity
say
Forms will do that.
forms. Yeah, I'd say a form plugin. That's Gravity Forms, Fluent Forms, something like that. At least you can submit it as an attachment, and then you could do nice things like setting size limits to it. All that kind of. You don't want somebody
I
like
mean, it could be after you, or I could give them a Gravity Form that asks these questions, and instead of returning a PDF, it would return a post, a custom post.
it depends on how
would-
long. Yeah, so if it's a resume.
Well, there's some pasting.
Type it all in. It's real. So I did something not too long ago for job applications. Boy, well, I'll tell you, that was a nightmare because
Yep.
it was just pages and pages, and they wanted it in a form.
It's the same thing we had to do for grant applications for a group that funded grants for nonprofits.
So
The
it's,
questions they ask are enormous.
so that and even
uh,
taking the form was such a
So
headache. too.
would you do this as a custom post type and find a search tool that will only search that custom post type?
I don't think you need to do it as a custom post because that's what the forms are. Basically, a form plugin is taking that PDF and putting it someplace. Now the question is it putting it someplace where it's searchable? I assume like for Fluent Forms, I think it just copies it into the media library. I'm not positive. And once it's in the media library, then it's searchable like anything
Well,
else.
with Gravity Forms, I can put it into Dropbox or Google Doc or something else. I hate Google Docs, but people over 50.
But
do
then once
not
you move
like-
it there, then from a search standpoint, you're off your website in a sense. So you're not able to pull that into your search.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking instead of, you're right about retyping your entire resume. That's a drag, but
And even searching
search-
that, because at that point, then all the data is saved custom post type.
well, it needs custom fields,
Yeah.
like what's your industry and what's your phone number and what's your
I
this and
would-
that.
And Peter, I'm jumping here too. I would say to me, that's just sound like a headache of you're always going to miss something, that somebody has. Like somebody's like, oh, I have a third address, or I have, I want to give you my.
And how do you not edit your own
Right.
stuff? So I was thinking, there's restrict content stuff where we can, but nobody it's not a membership site, which is what
Right,
I'm
right.
sort of pushing them toward.
That's where I think a form. And we don't have it on the CAT site, Peter, because I think we just have the free Fluent Forms one.
Jean had her hand up a minute ago, and if you had something to say to
Yeah.
this conversation, please do.
Yeah, you had kind of covered it when you was talking about Gravity Forms, but I thought, and you talked about custom post types. So instead of having them fill out make a Word document, change it into a PDF and upload that, if they could just fill out the information online, either using a Gravity Form,
Mhm.
can convert to a PDF if you really want to, or you can just have it as a custom post, and then you have the fields that you can search for. So forget about the PDF altogether and make it all web-based.
I think that's friendly for the website person. It's not friendly for the person submitting the resume, because they probably are
Well,
submitting resumes
It's
to
free,
multiple.
but it's free. Sue's doing this for people for free.
No,
and
no,
they're-
no,
if
no.
they're-
I'm saying this, the person
if they're
submitting the resume is probably
if they're
submitting to
unemployed,
multiple.
If they're unemployed, they have time.
So
There you go.
So Sue,
Yeah, what would you do, Peter?
well, where's the PDF coming from in the first place? I mean, they
From
have-
the person who wants a job.
the person has a job, so everyone that I'm looking at so far has a PDF resume.
Right.
from the
I
example.
imagine anybody looking for a job nowadays has a PDF of their
Good
resume.
shit. I wasn't sure if they were offering it as a service or something like
No,
that.
no, no. Oh, good question.
Yeah. So as you know, there's a million ways to do
Yeah.
any one simple thing. One of the simplest ways that I could imagine, if you were to say, make this as simple as possible in terms of the tools required to use, I would think that something like one, but it would take one extra step unless there's a way to automate this other step, which would be, yeah, a simple form that takes just the basic information so that you have that, so that you can have the name, the contact information, whatever, but not all of the details, right? Because that's what won't, in my experiences, it doesn't work, right? People, they panic, they don't know sometimes. So, but there is one other way out of that, which I'll talk about in a second. So the idea is a relatively simple kind of header information with the upload your PDF link, and yes, Gravity Forms can do it, and you can authorize the PDF file, and it'll land in its own place. Now that I would put in the way I would do it, yeah, I would do a custom post type, just because you're managing, these are your resumes. And then not only do I have the PDF, then I would either, as part of the upload, say, even with instructions, please copy and paste just the text, don't worry about any format, into this field, so that they're, and I would just, the one thing I would look to see is if there's a way to automate that, where it would be like scrape the text, because all the PDF resumes are just text, right? It's not like we've got scanned images, at least, hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody was manually doing it, you'd pull it up, copy and paste it and paste it into a field. And that's the field you're searching for, even though you still may only be showing the bits that were entered into the fields, those small amounts, and the link to the PDF. You wouldn't show all of the stuff that you're searching for. So that would be your custom post type template page. There's the word template, right? The how you're outputting your custom post type wouldn't show the content of it. That would be the resume, but we don't want to worry about formatting it, right? Because that's when you get major. You just put the words there. But the one thing about that is now by hybriding this is then you can have certain control, like to say, okay, I'm going to have just certain, what industry, what certain top level kinds of questions that most of the searches are going to be about anyway. And then, and quite honestly, if that's enough, you might not even have to do the scraping to do all the word searches. If you,
yeah, I mean, because there's like, every resume I've ever seen is from this year to that year. I worked here. This was my title. This is what I did. I would say something like, go back 3, and then say something like, if you want more than that, get in touch with this person.
Well, yeah, I think it would be almost like, what are your areas of expertise? What geography do you want to work? How many years experience do you have in that field? Right? So expertise, that type of thing. So it's sort of forcing them to summarize. Because I think we've all done this to some degree. But the idea being that, you don't have to go to a full resume entry system when all you really want to do is make sure you can search it and hand over the PDF file. So that's
I think what I might,
as long as you have an additional workflow requirement. That's
what I think I'm going to do is present this to the group as 2 solutions or 2 options. One is going to be much lower cost, and one is going to be fancy dancy with a membership site, and only members can upload resumes and all that, because I am worried about people uploading crap and dangerous things. Or I mean, if we only allow PDFs, I don't know what the heck a hacker can do to put an executable into it. They can put them into JPEGs, they can put them into PDFs. So I don't want to just have an open upload.
Yeah.
So let me talk to them.
Yeah, that's where the form plugin will at least allow you to limit what can be sent as an attachment and limit the sizes to it. Where I was going, again, from a workflow standpoint, it depends on, is there another step in this process afterwards where once one of these things gets submitted, Joe Schmo has to then get alerted and say, okay, now I need to review the thing. That's where the form plugin to me is like, it's built, they're not really built entirely for workflows, but that's where you can just plug in or tie into a workflow easier from a form plugin than custom creating like a custom
Yeah,
post.
we can set the role for to use the form, I think, to a contributor and then
That
say
too, yep.
you can't make this. Okay. Laura, Laura knows this group because we're all from Greensboro and we know each other. Laura, you know kind of how they work. Do you have any kind of input on for these folks what you would suggest?
No, I mean, you guys had great suggestions. Yeah, I messaged Sue that I actually used this group when I was getting back into the workforce. So I attended meetings before COVID and stuff, and they are an awesome group.
Good people, and
you're the perfect
they've
test
got-
case then for submitting these things. Is it too burdensome to go through?
But they do need to work on their resumes and get them down to 1 page instead of 3 pages.
yeah,
And yeah, in the search, I typed in plumber and I got somebody for project management.
was is like they work for. Yeah, I understand where that. You need a better search. I don't know that anybody ever seriously used this search, and obviously there are lots of websites out there they could go to, but the folks in this group are in general looking for work in the area,
Right.
Yeah.
which is our triad, which is Greensboro, Winston, High Point. It's not like you know, I want to move to California.
Can you
So
set up some kind of tag? Because if you do a search by the tags that are associated with each person's name.
do you think that that's a good one? Do you think on a search like this that it's a useless search if you don't have some like an Amazon filter? You
Yeah.
know, I want what size shoot, or I'm interested in these
Kind of,
industries.
but now you're so this
You
now.
yeah.
If
Okay.
you've used something like I had to do something for another organization of setting up just a job opening on Indeed.com. If you've used
Oh.
Indeed back end, I mean that's what now you're talking about a full system allowing you to go through candidates and all this. So we're getting beyond a plugin. Now you're building a system. So
What,
yeah.
15 or 20 million for development? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
All
right.
here's another thing to consider too, right? So what one I don't want to forget. Also make sure that, especially with things like job stuff, that there's some legal awareness, and I know you know that. The idea of like, oh, I gave you my resume, I didn't get a job. Did you screen me out? Did you lose it? Blah blah blah. So you have to.
Yeah, I got a lawyer in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I'll ask him, but
The other
they've got, this is housed by the biggest church in Greensboro. That's their sponsor. And I'm quite sure they've got members that are willing to do a little volunteer work.
now, so, and here's the other thing then. How many resumes do you think there may be? I mean, are we talking dozens, hundreds, thousands?
2 dozen, maybe
Okay.
3.
So again, sizing things based on what your maximum number would be. I've got a kind of a thing that I've been using as a mantra for a whole nother thing. I'm working on another project with somebody I know for a long time, and I have to even remind myself to not over engineer something. Right. So that's really so. First, if you're talking about that many, then here's the resume. It's a custom post type that links that has the, you know, with the where the body was the link to the URL to the resume with categories and tags, because somebody's gonna, you know, and a little, you know, maybe whether the excerpt or the body of the thing and have them fill it out is give us your elevator pitch summary of
Peter, would a cadence element display clickable tags on this so that every time a tag was used, would an element be able to do that?
Well,
it would have to be dynamic.
So an element could do it, right? So if you show the element and then do the filtering on the element is one way, but you also have the advanced post type filtering that he's built into it.
Oh, yeah.
So again, if you're using categories and tags, Like, I wouldn't over-engineer this because it doesn't sound, if you,
Okay.
again, if you're dealing with that many, what I want to see is the person looking at it is just kind of the quick summary. And you know what? If there's 5 people, I'm going to click on the 5 resumes anyway. You know,
Mhm.
We want to see this when you build it, Sue. We want to see the demo of this.
Well, you know what they say about working with nonprofit volunteer groups.
yeah,
We're gonna have a zebra when we get close, but I'll let you know.
very good.
This was helpful. Thank you. I will mute myself.
No, it was a good one. It was a good one. I think it shows too, and again, a lot of us who work with clients, it's always and it used to annoy me. There was a whole thing about the 5 questions when I worked in corporate, but the whys, like a 5-year-old child saying why, because it's digging deeper into don't give me the solution. It's like, what are you really trying to solve? So this was a good exercise in that. The one that we received ahead of time, I don't see the person on the call, but maybe we can touch upon it very briefly because I don't feel I have expertise to cover it, but it was related to GDPR.
Yeah.
So
it
do
was
you have a question in front of you?
Richard, but I don't think Richard's here.
No.
But let's answer it really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Richard's question has to do with GDPR, cookies, the warnings we get that says allow cookies, allow select cookies, things like that. And it's mainly concerned with GDPR, which I can never remember. It is the
I have
General Data Protection Regulations out of Europe.
Right. So it was an EU thing that kind of started.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And question he had is, we only market basically to the New York City, Long Island area, a select services. And his concern or the question was, do I have to worry about GDPR and all that kind of stuff? And the simple answer is, you don't. You don't have to do that. If you are marketing to a specific region that does not fall under GDPR jurisdiction, and you're not selling something internationally and all of that, then you do not have to go through the whole GDPR cookie approval. And it's all about privacy and protecting data. That said, what I would recommend that you do is you have a well-written privacy policy, which is why, by the way, when you do any kind of WordPress install, one of the automatic pages, even to some people's annoyance, is a privacy policy page. And the reason for that would be to say, and put in your footer, whatever, to say, this is how we use data. It might be you don't use it at all, or we get analytics and we check, and we want to make sure that we're checking traffic, or we have a form and we keep your name, and if you want us to dump all your data, we won't sell your data, that type of thing. That's just best practice. That covers a lot of kind of the intent and how you want to use it. It forces you to think about what actually is your privacy policy, because this is all to protect regular folk, consumers, from providing information on a website. Next thing you know, that information is being sold, shared, passed around when they did not have any idea that was going to be the case. So, one, making sure that you know what you're going to do with the information and protect it, and 2, putting it in a privacy policy that you publish on your site that explains that.
I was just showing sorry, Peter, I was just showing the one that gets installed by default. So when, again, for newer folks, once you install, I think it comes with every word. It's not WordPress, it's not theme specific. You get at least a privacy policy
WordPress,
page.
right. It comes out of core. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's pretty extensive, at least the things you should think of.
Yeah.
So it's a good template to read.
Not only that, Ray, can you go back one page? Because I think it helps you, and go over, mouse over the privacy policy, and then where is it? If you click on that, if you just click on the title, not the preview, the title, then if you go to right there, where it says View Privacy Policy Guide, that'll bring you to a page that'll even walk you through. This really kind of.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, we win. That was the goal. Make sure Ray learns something. But yeah, in your privacy policy, it has right there is sort of a guide to what what you can and should put in there. So for Richard, who asked the question, selling only on Long Island, New York City, and selling a particular contractor service, they should look at this as to, especially if they have a form, for example, it was, contact us, or if you want a quote or things like that, if you're doing any kind of data gathering. But even on the analytics side and on the cookie side, just saying, we're not capturing any personal information, and where is it also the whole
Isn't it also, I'm sorry, as I'm jumping around, isn't it, I thought there was a spot for it as well on,
so privacy is there under settings, and then under tools is the dump personal data.
but it's under setting, wasn't there a spot, maybe I'm misthinking, like, I thought there was a spot where you actually would say where your page is, or is that not true? Is it just under privacy? Okay, here you go, change your privacy policy page. That's what I was thinking of, use this page as well, okay.
And I think you even get like schema there that basically puts the code in, even
Right.
tells the internet this is a privacy policy page.
Oh, and here's the guide. Oh, okay, I didn't notice that. I guess I'd always just stayed on the settings thing. It's the second tab there.
Right there for you. So
yeah, I guess you're right. To answer his question, you don't need something specifically for GDPR. Although that's another question of, well, what if you do? Well, let's table that one for now, because that's
yeah,
if
if you have any service or product or anything that where you're collecting information from people from other parts of the world in Europe, then you definitely want to cover yourself. So international business, things like that. But there's also laws. California has a privacy law. There's going to be a few more. So yeah, there's Canada has something. So it's kind of like, make sure that you're at least aware. Having that privacy policy is definitely a good first step, because it forces you to think about it. You publish, hey, here's how we're going to use your information, because most of us aren't using that kind of information, and we're not going to be selling it for sure. But publishing that is really helpful, valuable, and you kind of do it once, you revisit it. There's one other website if you want to call up. It's called it's a paid service, but it's called Termageddon.
I just saw Laura had mentioned that. Yeah, Termageddon.
So Termageddon, and I think Termageddon offers one free account for anybody who's like an agency owner, because obviously they want you to sell to your clients. And what's great about Termageddon is that you can set up your privacy policies and other terms and conditions and things like that.
Is this different than I've used IUBenda or something like that, which is
I don't know.
IUBEND or so. It was something similar. There was a free version of it for a while.
Nice about Termageddon is, well, one thing, they sponsor WordPress events, and they're very friendly and all. They have a plugin, and then what's good about this is that, as they say, automatically updates changes. So you basically are setting things up in a form, and if there are rules that change, they will automatically update your things, but also inform you that you have to confirm things and all. But they handle that in a kind of an automatic way, which is really good. And they're not crazy priced on a per account basis. But yeah, Termageddon is a great way if you want to, really pay attention to some of the protect yourself.
This was the other one. I think that I think it's similar. IUBenda. I forget where I saw this as well too, but it's something similar to where it would create the thing for you and attach it.
Termageddon also has a cookie policy that you can add a plugin to your website to put that on.
Yep.
And like Peter said, that they'll let you know if there needs to be an update and you need to verify something. So that's on my list, because I forgot that I did get one of those emails, because there was a change in some law that affects something that that I had checked off. The form is a little bit long and tedious, but once you do it once, and then they also have an affiliate program, so you can sell a license to your client. And so I made like $21.
Yeah.
Very neat. All right.
And they're really nice people. They are present, which I like about them. They actually are, have been at events and podcasts and all kinds of things, and they're very nice.
Yep.
I
They're
like.
from Chicago,
There you go.
and they were part of Accessibility Day because they were one
Yes.
of the things right after you, because I got to introduce them after you.
Yep.
And yeah, can't say enough about them.
Very cool. I wrote them down.
And they have video resources and walk you through, or like if you need help, just get on a call with one of them. They actually have a staff now too, so it's not just the two of them. It's a husband and wife.
Yes.
So
Very cool. Looking through the chat, I think we covered everything that came through. If anyone else has questions that we didn't cover, if our discussion prompted more questions, feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, let us know. Let's see. What I was going to show real quick, because we still have a little bit of time here, is I think most people here are aware of it, but we always have a couple new people coming on, is just when I was looking at that thing about the privacy policy page, I think we probably spend a lot more time on this, so I don't want to steal your thunder, Peter, for this one either, but this is the WordPress Playgrounds. So it was just nice where I'm like, oh, yeah, what does it look like when I do install? So for people who aren't aware, this is a way to install WordPress basically in your browser. So all you do, literally click one button, and I mentioned this earlier too. What's neat is if you want to play around with the beta version, but you don't want to mess around with one of your current sites, in here you can actually change the WordPress version. So if you want to play around with 6.6, beta 3, you can do a bunch of other stuff and say, all right, apply changes. So let's see what 6.6 looks like. And it's super fast, and there we go. It's like there's easiest way to get WordPress up and running and installed, and no commitment, no paying for hosting or anything. And yeah, so this is where I checked quickly to see, all right, what gets installed by default, and there we go. There's our privacy policy page.
yeah, it's nice because like I use local to kind of test things out, and this allows you to test a plugin, because a lot of the plugins you can't like see on the front end in local. So this allows you to do that.
Yeah, Peter has some fancier ways to basically bundle. Is this the one that you showed me, Peter, where you can bundle like a plugin as part of this install, or is that the
Yeah. Let me show you real quick while we're on the top. This is
the other one that you were showing previously, and I think I signed up for it too. Was that the was it Taste WP, or what was the one that was like
Taste WP?
Yeah, that was another temporary kind of
And
hosting
also
thing.
Instant WP, but Taste
Instant
WP I think made it easier to kind of preload things. So I'll show you something that I'm kind of really interested in going forward, which is, I have so many windows. So many windows, admin site, and because I preloaded some things and grouped them. You can see my notes. I'm working on the WordPress tools and tips that we've done over the months. So I'm going to put that a page on our website on Hartford WP. So when we talk about some of the tools, we'll say, hey, they're all saved there. So I was going to try to do it for today, but I didn't get to it. And let me see. Give me just a sec. Oh no, I had this all pre-set up. Then I'll show you the artificial intelligence.
Can I write that down? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's Matt.
thank you for the bug report.
Welcome. Shush, Matt Mullenweg. It's always an interesting. I don't know if anybody actually watched anything from a WordCamp Europe that just took place this past weekend.
I haven't watched it yet. No.
Yeah, it's always interesting, some of the Q&A stuff, because there's only so much you can commit to there, and it's funny, and Laura, you'll recognize Courtney Robertson has been trying to ask certain questions every year at every WordCamp and doesn't always get responded to directly. Here we go. Okay. So playground. There's a couple things that's really interesting. So Ray just showed you, you can see my screen, right? This is
Yeah,
WordPress.
we can see the Earth background.
Oh, the Earth. New share to. Anything change?
No,
Nope.
Okay. I've got that highlighted. Oh,
Is it in Zoom? Maybe when you shared, maybe you had the wrong. Did you have an app share or something?
let me, it paused it for some reason. So let me start again. It'll take a second. Ready? Boom. Share.
There we go. Got
There we go. I can see it. I can see the reflection in your glasses. All right. So WordPress Playground. Here's what's really cool about WordPress Playground. We just showed it. Ray just showed it very, very quickly. There's a lot of ways to get at it. If you go to wordpress.org /playground, it'll actually go to where Playground is, which is playground.wordpress.net. But this is kind of the starting point, wordpress.org /playground. There's a lot of information there. You'd think, oh, this is great. But what's really, really awesome about it is they keep building on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that are going to be possible going forward, including basically building whole sites and then exporting them, saving them, coming back to stuff that was only, in the browser, you close it, everything was lost. Now you can save information locally. Really kind of crazy good. And what I got really interested in is when you go into basically the instructions to, which is this, I'll put it in the chat for the one person who might be interested. But what's kind of neat is you get this area that really kind of says how you can use it. And what I like are things when you get into how you can add other information like the query API. And when you get into the query API, that's where you can say, go to playground.wordpress.net, and then by sending parameters over through the URL, you can basically preload everything. So you could put a link out there that says, load Playground, load the Cadence theme, load Cadence block, not to keep talking about Cadence, load the Ollie theme, load the Generate Blocks plugin, put it on version, on a certain PHP version, and so on. These are all of the parameters that you can set in the URL. So like this idea here, I'll just grab this URL, which is literally saying playground.wordpress.net. The question mark is in a URL, a web address. The question mark says, from this point on, I'm going to send you some parameters. In this case, theme equals pendant. If I come and I just put that in there, that's going to load, and it's downloading pendant, and it just goes, here you go. This is that theme loaded up into this instance of this playground. It's just
since you just did this, just out of curiosity,
yeah.
Is that the only theme it installed, or in this case, did it also install the 2024 theme as well?
Also installed 2024.
Okay.
And then you can list, if I wanted to do, let me double check. If I go theme equals pendant, and if you're used to URLs, this is, and I say theme equals cadence, and it's the slug for the theme. So when you go
Gotcha,
to the repository and you look to see at the top of the screen, you'll see the slug, that thing that's in it. If I enter this, now it's going to load downloading pendant, and it didn't grab, and theme equals, because you can stack these, because when I did plugins,
did it put them both? You only have one active, so are they both in there? No,
it didn't load it. It might not even be the right thing, but if I did
but there's a parameter for it though.
There's a parameter for it. And if I go back to too many plugins. So if I go,
that's a cool thing, like, from local, the thing I liked about local, but I would never really keep it up though, is creating those blueprints. So I'd have my blueprint for Divi and all my other stuff too, and I would use that. My problem was that all of my blueprints would always get out of date because my theme got, first thing I have to do is immediately update all of the parts of my blueprint, which
Yeah.
is kind of neat because it's pulling it from the repository.
Well, and one thing you could put into the URL is, and they use the word blueprint.
Yeah.
You can actually have, like on another site, the blueprint, which is using now under the query API. If I go to the blueprints API, then I'm going to see different choices there, including let's try to, if you write one of these, right? If you can see over here, but it's all the same type of thing that basically says load a WordPress website in this instance in my browser and do these things to it.
Yep. And
whether you do it through the blueprint, like you can save it as a file, there's a lot of ways that you could reference that, which would be really cool if we had like a Hartford blueprint that we change every time we did a meetup and said, just go to our URL.
Right.
Now it'll load what we're demonstrating right now, or load that plugin. And again, the idea that you could put multiple plugins. One of the things that I discovered is that there is a WordPress Playground block, which is pretty cool. And I'll show you. So the WordPress Playground block, right? So now I'm editing a page just like you would, or a post. And I've got, this is, if I look at my paragraph and I have the WordPress Playground block, you have to load that plugin so that you get it's not a core block, but you can load the plugin, the WordPress Playground plugin, that's what it's called, WordPress Playground block. You load that plugin. Now you have a new block called the WordPress Playground. When you place it, you have the ability to change parameters. You can use a blueprint, which is what I'm using here. And
this would be neat though if you're writing, let's say, a blog post about like a demo of some functionality. You could include that. Say here, try it out yourself, kind of deal.
Exactly. So in this one, I put the code, put in generate blocks and the variations theme. I like the variations of the block theme. So that's actually what's here. If I reload this page, because what the block does, and there's different ways you can have it automatically start or give a link. And it also has block parameters like make it full screen, widescreen, just like a lot of other blocks. But now I get that link using these parameters. So here I've got a page. If I activate that live preview, it's opening Playground in this block inside my web page, and it loaded variations and generate blocks. And if I look at the plugins, I should see. Wrong one. I went to the main. See, that's where it's in a frame. You can open it as its own page, which is what I probably did. I was just showing you.
This thing, again, just from a practical standpoint, I think for most people, I always kind of forget about it until I need it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a quick way to test something out very quickly, and rather than spinning up a site or creating another demo site or doing that, it's like, I think Playground is really matured a lot since I first saw it.
It's great, and I hope to use this more going forward for when we're doing certain demos where we could just preload something and have, hey, if you want to follow along, click here to open up your browser and you can see the same parameters that we're looking at. If you want to look at the admin enhancements plugin that we like or that I like, right. You can go give that a try. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do, but building off of using the languages, just straight in a link, or using this blueprint. And then what's nice is there's also shorthand, so you can set up a blueprint that basically says. And one thing I didn't do in that one,
plugins too. Yeah, I saw that.
You can do. There's, what version does it connect to the network? Are you logging in? When you log in, what page do you want to go to? You can send all of those parameters over so that you can save steps and just bring people right into exactly what they want. In this, you can load things that are not out of the repository if you have the URL. This is what people who are demonstrating their own stuff, for example.
Right.
And for anyone, if you see this using Playground and you're not sure what it is, it's a legit thing. It is a cool thing that I think we're going to see more and more people use, and there's a lot of power in
Well,
it.
and again, peek behind the curtain for everyone here too. We've been talking about, as Peter was just saying, trying to leverage this a bit to make things more interactive
Yeah.
where we can, of like you said, rather than us talk, like the perfect example is what Sue was talking about today. I mean, obviously, if we knew that ahead of time, we'd say, let's see how we're going to solve that. So we'd have a site loaded with, a form plugin and something else. So let's all try to solve that problem together, or, everyone click on this so you can follow along easier instead of just listening to us. So very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't see anything else in the chat. So
Well, let me show one more thing that
yeah, why don't you say
we'll get into
do one
details,
more,
but
then we can wrap up.
I want to see if anybody has any interest of the folks that are here, which is where's the link? I thought I had it right here. Accessibility area. I'll just call it up directly. Hang on. Playground. Not that group of pages. Well, let me just go to it. Kinsta is a web host. They're a very good web host. They changed their branding to colors I don't like, but that's my own personal hang-up. But one of the things that they're offering that I think is really, really cool, and I think I have to put in the right URL, which is, I'll just search for it. Kinsta static site hosting. So what?
Yeah, you were talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Kinsta is allowing is the ability to host websites for free. Now, these would be static sites, so not using a database, not using WordPress Live, but you can create your website using WordPress, export it as a static site, and there are ways of doing that. You do have to, so this is more developer-y, but I just want to say it out there, whether it's now or later when we have maybe a developer thing. But what's kind of really cool about it is you can create a static website. You have to use something, a service, an online service called GitHub, which is a developer platform. But then you can link this Kinsta free site. You have to sign up for it. No money involved. And then you can host a live site with your own domain and all, absolutely free. Which is really cool, because I'm thinking I've got certain things that I've set up that are really just static websites. It's while I've built it in WordPress, there's no dynamic content to it. And what needs to be changed, I can always regenerate the static site. So then using something like Local or even weirdly Playground, to build a website, export it as a static site, put it on GitHub, and then put it out on a solid host company like Kinsta for free. And their logic was, I heard this through a podcast, is that they're using basically no resources to do this, right? Because there's not a lot of computing power to just send a file over.
Peter, where do you connect the domain to the site? Do you do it through Kinsta?
Yeah. So it would like anything, you would have your domain that you have your DNS services where you say my website is hosted at this IP address. In your account, you will have you say this is the IP address that you point to, and you tell them
your A record, whatever would point to this thing.
And you tell them what domain is going to come to them. But for one of our next things, I'll have one set up.
It'd be cool to look at, because like I think we were talking about before, this could be like a good, somebody not too long ago, I think they were at our WordPress meetup maybe a year or so ago. They wanted to create a site for like a high school reunion, like the 30th whatever, and it's like, oh, I want to create a site, but it's like, how much trouble do you want to go through of spending on hosting? It's like something quick and dirty, you can put it together, just put it out there, and like solutions like this I think are it'd be great to have that to offer.
Yeah, just real quick. That said, I just set up. There's a company called Namecheap.
Oh yeah, I use them.
I needed it to set up a very simple site, and with a free domain. Of course, it wasn't not all .coms. You have a certain select that are free, but hosting and a free domain for a year was like $22. So there's always different levels of what you how you can kind of get in cheap, that type of thing. And yeah, the local tools like local really help, where you could just kind of do all your building and then find some hosting alternatives. And there are plenty of folks who say, oh, cheap hosting is so terrible for, but again, don't over engineer. If you don't have a whole lot of traffic,
Right.
you're not
Or like you said, yeah, that use case of it's a temporary thing and, you know, you're trying stuff out. Don't kill yourself of, you know, getting tangled up in all the details. So,
that's it.
all right, very cool.
Yeah.
First summer session.
Yeah. No more questions, I guess,
No more
right?
question. Yeah, I think we're good for now. And like I said, I think some of the stuff, this is what our theme is going to be like for this summer. I think it's looking at these things, which we don't necessarily want to create a full presentation on, but like, I think it would be fun next time to play around with playgrounds a little bit more, export some stuff out. Like we didn't have time for it tonight, but the other thing is that the cat shelter site, going back and building on that a bit more. So that one I may show a little bit of patterns, and maybe if 6.6 is live for our next meetup, WordPress 6.6, maybe we'll go back to synced patterns a little bit, play around with that just to show people what that looks like live. So
And I'll tell you, the gardening with the madman, I don't know if Gary is still listening. They're still on, but you know, I know that they had some things they want to change, and maybe we'll just do some live, you know, real world, help somebody out kind of thing. So
we're happy to do that. Yep, exactly. Always happy to do that. So, all right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us and spending this almost summer day. I think we're a couple days away from actual summer.
yeah, but it's hot and hotter tomorrow. Yeah,
feels like the hardest summer. So thanks everyone again for joining us. Like I said, I'm going to put the recording out in case you missed anything, and I'll probably get that out sometime late tomorrow. So if you have other ideas too, like we said, for topics, they don't have to be huge things, just send them to us and we'd be happy to cover them, or look at your site or whatever for next time. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Take care.